Hello, Peekers, and welcome back to the Plot Peak Podcast. I'm Miranda.
And I'm Mackenzie, and this is your one-stop shop for storytelling.
Tea spilling.
And to keep up with all the latest book talk drama that you have been missing out on.
We are here with another mini book episode, I guess. I don't know what to even call these because we're trying to rebrand a little bit, but not too much. So today, you guys should know, and if you don't know, go follow us on our Instagram and TikTok pages so you can be in the know. But today, we are going to be covering the book Coven by
Harper L. Woods.
Thank you. You got that. Yeah. And this is for the people who want to read along with us and the people who don't want to read along with us. We will storytell generally how the general gist goes. And then we're going to break down the scenes, not break down, but like kind of review the scenes and then talk about the pros and cons, our hot takes, anything controversial that we can relate our lives to. Who knows, honestly.
Who knows, really?
There is some trigger warnings that were noted in the beginning of this book. The trigger warnings are as followed, and these are not our trigger warnings. These are already in the book by the author, so we do have comments to make about that. But anyways, before we get into it, dubious consent, which, what does that mean?
It's like kind of an umbrella term for sexual activity, which is not expressly consensual. There's a little bit of coercion or resistance. So it's not 100% like, yes, I'm so excited to do this.
It's not your enthusiastic consent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Forced feeding, rough and explicit sexual content, forced proximity, which honestly, that's a trope in my opinion. References to past abuse, traumas, and trigger situations, knife violence, blood depictions, physical harm on the main character, ritualistic murder, betrayal, and graphic violence.
Yeah, we talked about these and definitely take them with, a grain of salt. This book was relatively mild, in my opinion.
If you could get through our last little episode of No Place to Hide, you will not have a problem reading this, in our opinion.
Yeah. There was only a couple things that I was like, ooh, it's kind of gross.
Yeah.
And also forced feeding, whenever I read that, I really was thinking that somebody was like forcing someone to eat something.
Me too.
Like shoving food in their mouth or something. And trigger warning, it's talking about blood in this. So like forcing someone to drink their blood or forcing someone to have their blood drank, which makes much more sense for a trigger warning.
Yeah, it does. No, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wow, when we picked this book, we saw all the trigger warnings. We're like, oh, this is about to be so dark, so scary, so much we might not be able to handle it. So we picked it. And honestly, it was a nice read.
I really liked it. Yeah, I can't wait to get into some of the little details and like give our like full ratings for the book. But as far as like the spice and the tension, I really liked it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into it and tell you guys how the general story goes. Okay, so there's this witch university trying to reform after some mysterious massacre killed almost all of the founding witches. They send the headmaster, whose name is Gray, and he's also a vessel, aka a vampire, to go get one final student that they discovered is the last living bloodline of the House Green. And side note for the witches, there's a bunch of different houses like green, blue, red, and they all have different meanings like earth, fire, water, etc. But she's one of the last lines of the Greens. Very important. So that final student, her name is Willow, and she's been hidden this whole time. Like the Coven didn't know about her existence because her mom had faked her death to get out of the Coven, and she put on a protection spell to keep her hidden from the Coven finding her. And she also has a little brother that Willow, is warding, aka protecting, because for a male witch, when they come of age, they have to decide if they want to keep their powers or lose them to heir a future witchling child. And then so Gray comes to get her and she's like, fuck you, no thank you. And she tries to sneak her and her brother out to meet their dad, who's supposed to be taking the brother away because RIP, their mom just died. So the brother is going to go far away and hang out with the dad because Willow knows that she's about to get picked up by this witch coven and have to go train to be a witch. So that was a prearranged arrangement. She puts up a good fight against Gray and his vessel minions, and she uses her green powers, which is really cool. She has the ability to work with nature, the ground, and stuff like that, and healing and stuff. We'll get into that. So she puts up a good fight, but nonetheless, she gets caught by Gray, and she makes a deal with Gray that she'll go with him to the Coven, and he'll leave her brother out of the situation because they actually ended up catching the brother whenever they were running away. So he's like, we'll let him go, but you have to come with us. So she does. They bring her to this place called Crystal Hollow, and they present her to the Coven. And they find out that she is a super powerful green witch because what happens is as a witch of the line dies out, whatever power they had, it gets passed on to their descendants. So the less that there is in a house, the more powerful those witches are. The more witches there are in a house, the less powerful they are because they kind of all share. So she's like a super powerful green witch, and that's why they want her here. But what the Coven doesn't know is she has a secret. She is not only the last of the green line, she's also part of the Hecate line, which is the OG witch of this whole species. And her power with the Hecate line revolves around life and death.
Is it Hecate or is it Hecate?
I always say Hecate.
It's
like the goddess?
Hecate. Hecate.
I thought it was HCTATE. Hecate.
It's HECATE.
Okay, so Hecate.
Hecate.
Sorry, guys, it's Hecate. It's okay. People should know I'm really terrible with names anyways, and they should get the general gist of the story. So anyways, Hecate is the OG witch, and everybody thinks that she's dead. So they think that because the Hecate line is gone, the vessels are here forever. And the tea with the vessels are they were part of the deal for witches to come about. So Hecate was the OG witch who was about to get burned down in the witch Salem trials. She made a deal with the devil. The devil was like, okay, but you got to be able to put life into these vessel bodies so that way my demon souls can live on the outer earth. But the tea with that is that they have to feed off of the witches, and the witches end up sharing some of their magic to the vessels, and then that makes the vessels even stronger. So Willow's great grandma, who's a bag of bones, literally, she's literally a skeleton. I don't know how she's actually alive or doing any of this quite yet, but just go with it. She's alive, and she is like, I have a secret plan to make the vessels disappear and the witches strong again. I'm trying to kill out the witches. And so Willow is like, wait, you're trying to kill out the witches? She's like, but listen, killing them out so that way we can kill the vessels and we're going to start over. And Willow's like, this seems really sus. I don't like it. Also, she doesn't like the way that she's trying to phase out the witches by corrupting magic and leaving like the old ways of magic and stuff like that. So she's like against the Coven for that reason. She's also against the vessels because she knows that witches are supposed to hate vessels. But Gray, the headmaster, is like, listen, I like you. You hate me. I'm really good at magic. You're really good at magic. You hate the Coven and I hate the Coven. Why don't we just form a pack and quit being mean to each other and work together? I'll protect you and you can help me restore magic to how it's supposed to be. And she's like, fine, I don't want to, but I will. And also in between all of this, there's sexual tension brewing, obviously. So she ends up going through a couple of different phases of this journey in the school, and she has to make a choice of either siding with great grandma Susanna or the vessel Gray. And she ends up not siding with Grandma Susanna. She actually buries her alive into the garden. And then she tries to run away. And then the vessel Gray, he grabs her and he's like, no, you're going to stay with me. And so he's like, listen, I actually have to tell you everything now that you know what your grandma knows. And she told you all the tea about like who I am and blah, blah, blah. He's like, my tea is I'm trying to bring these demons back to life. I want them to come up here because we're technically trapped in these bodies. And you're the only one who can unmake us and return us to our old selves so we can be free again. And so he opens the gates of hell. His demons bring up some body And I think it alludes to he/him, which is Lucifer, the fallen angel. And he's lifeless. He's like in a weird comatose state almost. He's not alive. He's like Snow White. Long story short, Gray ends up telling Willow that she needs to resurrect Lucifer. And then the plot twist at the end is that Gray is Lucifer. Gray is Lucifer's spirit trapped into a vessel, and he wants to be returned to be free again. And I know we just gave you guys a whole ton. I'm so sorry if that was a little bit much. We are, like we said, revamping our flows and trying to figure out what works. So we will digest all of this. Give you 1 second to digest. Let's do. All right.
That's all you get.
Are we ready to talk about the book?
Absolutely. There were so many scenes in this book that I really liked and so many scenes that I hated. I'm really excited to break it down.
Well, let's first, what's your review of the book as a whole?
Yeah, I think I rated it a 3 on Goodreads. You can follow me. But I think I would give it a 3.5. I did like the spice and the tension. I liked the magic elements a lot. I love a vampire kind of story in there. They're called vessels, but they're essentially vampires. Okay,
they're literally vampires.
Let's be real. They can compel people. They're weakened by the sun. They drink blood. It's, it is what it is.
They're vampires.
Yeah. Loved that. The main character, I did like her a lot. She was very feisty, but she seemed like she had a purpose throughout the book, like that her parents essentially wanted her to go break down this coven. They wanted her to restore the old ways and get kind of their revenge for things that had happened to them there. She seemed like she didn't know why she was doing it the whole time. And I'm like, girl, then why are you doing it?
I literally have that written down. Yeah.
Yes. And then at the end, she's like, wait, why did I do this? I don't want to do this. And I'm like, girl, you didn't want to do this the whole time.
The whole time.
Why were you here?
No.
Yeah. So that was weird. So yeah, I would give it a 3.5. The sexual elements I really liked. I thought it was fun. I thought it was spicy. The trigger warnings were not bad. If you are a dark romance reader, this is not bad at all. Yeah. Okay. That's my review. What would you give it?
I think it's so interesting that we rated this the same exact thing. I also gave it a 3.5. I was going to give it a 3, but I was like, I was entertained by the story. The storyline was good. The things that kept tripping me up was, one, the writing style. I feel like it was just it wasn't bad, but it was just random sometimes. And I'm like, whoa, what's happening here? Things felt out of pocket. And I know that can happen in stories, but it just felt very out of pocket sometimes in certain situations. And then 2, like you said, with the main character, she is this powerful badass girl who doesn't take shit, but at the same time, she doesn't know what the fuck she's fighting for. She's like, I have to do this. And then she doesn't even know her own lore. She's like, why am I doing this? Who is this? What is this prophecy you guys are talking about? She doesn't get it. And I'm like, how are you so prepared but not prepared at the same time? What were you training for? And then there was other parts that I really liked. The things that I loved about the book was the magic. I thought the magic scenes were explained and written really good. Mm-hmm. And I thought they were really fun. And I could see it in my head the way that the magic was being written, and I liked it a lot. I loved the spice and the tension. I loved the bad guy. The whole time reading through this, it was giving, I thought it was going to be an enemies to lover, but it's enemies to lovers, but it felt like it was just enemies to enemies who just like to hate fuck, Yeah. And so I was like, do I hate him or do I like him? I cannot tell, but I think I like him. That's how
I know. Yes. I loved the hate scenes. And in their scenes, they were like, I literally fucking hate you. But then they were like, God, this is so fun.
No, I know. And I was talking to Colby about the books at certain points, and I was like, it's giving, I hate you. I love you. I hate you. Fuck me. And it was just all over the place. And literally the next day I read a scene where he was like, tell me you don't want me to fuck you right now. And she said, I hate you. And I was like, of course.
Of course. But then she's like, but yes.
But yes, actually,
Please,
I do.
Continue.
And then my favorite part was definitely the end reveal, because I had a hint that she was going to return him to his body. I didn't see him becoming, I had maybe little suspicions that he could have been Lucifer. Like in hindsight, yeah, he could have been Lucifer. But I didn't see that until the end. And then the plot twist where they're like, oh, he's actually your husband. And also you can't stay alive forever. Like you're not going to be a human forever.
Yeah, I want to know what they mean by that. Another thing that I felt about this book is I felt like there was a lot of plot holes that just didn't get answered, or like things that were brought into the story unnecessarily. Like, for one, in the beginning, whenever they were making that deal, whenever you were talking about that, they were like, you help me, mano y mano, I help you, protect, blah, blah, blah. She thought in her head, she was like, this is excellent because if he breaks his promise, then I'll own him and he'll be mine. So, of course, and she hinted at that a couple times. She was like, he can't break his promise or he'll be mine. And that nothing ever came to light with that. So I felt like that was almost just like a useless piece of information. And then there was a whole story about a massacre that happened 50 years ago, which is part of the reason that she was kind of sent there by her parents, because her aunt was one of the people that were massacred. And her father, which is the aunt's
brother,
it was his brother or her brother, wanted revenge for that. And nothing was really ever explained about that, why that happened. If they needed a Hecate witch to remake the bones, why did they not just use Lorelai? She was there. She was the only last Hecate witch at that point.
Yeah.
Don't understand.
It made no
that.
sense. I completely agree. I don't understand what the dad was doing at all, where he even came into the picture, or like what the situation was. My only like saving grace for these plot holes is the fact that this is a series and those answers might be answered in the next books.
Yeah.
But still very frustrating to finish the first book and not know why any of this actually started.
No, it's very weird. Very weird. And also I felt like the ending was really rushed. I did like it. I liked the way that the story unfolded, but I felt like so many things were happening on top of each other that just didn't give me time to absorb it all. Like I felt like almost how we just gave you a really quick reenactment of the whole book. I felt like that's how the ending went. Like it was like plot, big, huge things, event with no little mini details in there to like smooth things out. It was you couldn't breathe at the end, and not in a good way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was a lot going on. Like I was very confused up until the fact that Lucifer was revealed. And then I was like, oh, but what?
But why? And
I was like,
there were so many things that happened that I was like, this isn't making sense to me.
Yeah. And that's not to say that it's not a good story. It's just
it was a good story.
The story. We haven't finished the story. So maybe that's why we're having these 2-cent conversations right now.
And like you, I did enjoy the book. I actually read through it pretty quickly. Like I enjoyed reading it. It was a good read. But
how did you feel about the writing? Did you have any stumbles in that? Was I just alone in that, or like
no,
where did you feel?
In the beginning, I definitely did. There was so many. I think it was the writing style, because there are a lot of books that I will read that they intentionally leave little details out of the little story to make you guess what's going to happen next, to make you want to keep reading. For me, these felt like they kind of fell flat. Like it felt like details were missing instead of intentionally withheld. And then we would find out something later, and then you're like, oh, I guess that makes sense a little bit more. I don't know. I think it was a little bit of the writing style for me. And not to say that it's not a good book and it's not somebody else's perfect cup of tea, but for me, I agree with that. The middle was a lot better. And I think a lot of it was because most of it was just sexual tension, blah, blah, blah. Like that's more fun to read. But I think the plots, like the big plot areas, were where I was having issues, you know?
I agree.
And then also there was this whole storyline where students were getting murdered and their organs were being removed.
It was to raise Charlotte, I think, to recreate her body, because he stabs her to pull out her rib. And then, like, I think they all form together. Because when he got those other 12 witches, he's like, gather the brain, gather this. And he's like gathering all of these organs. And I think it's like to re-rise Charlotte. And that was something that irked me, because I was like, you went through all of this to re-rise Charlotte so that Charlotte could tell Willow that she's married to him.
Right. And then also, this was happening 50 years ago, and all the organs were removed then, too. They said this is happening again. So,
Yeah.
what was Charlotte raised then as well? And if not, then why were those murders?
We'll
Confused.
never know. We'll
Well,
never know.
or maybe we have to read the second book. I don't know. I don't like how the end of the first book left so many questions that feel like major things that don't make sense. Like, really,
Mhm.
truly don't make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I really don't like the fact that the main character doesn't even know what's going on. I think that if the main character isn't confident or like sure, which is something I did like about this story too, is like it felt like she was obviously the protagonist and the vessel was the antagonist, but it felt like he was winning the whole time instead
Yeah.
of her. Like the main character was not in the advantage and it was not her happy ending. And I believe that's what the author wrote in this book. She's like, I fully understand that Gray is the bad guy and he just got his happy ending. And that's exactly what it was. Like it,
Mhm.
which was weird. I've not read a story like that where I was like, the main character is not getting their way in the end. Or like they don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And he really is a bad guy. It's not just like a
Mhm.
morally gray character. Like, he's actually really bad. Like, actually
But what
bad.
parts about him make him bad?
Well, he's murdering students,
Okay. Well, yeah.
removing their
Yeah.
organs just for funsies.
But he's doing it in the name of love. Well,
I don't think so. I think she actually was just an unexpected fun
benefit.
perk. Yeah.
You think so?
He said over and over again, he was like, I wasn't expecting to regret this, but sorry. Like when he was stabbing her.
Yeah.
And then he was like,
It
but
was
don't
like,
worry, I'll
ooh.
heal you. But he was like, yeah, this is great, but you're not the reason that I did this. You're just a nice
Yeah.
perk.
But I feel like, see, and this is where I feel fucked up about myself because I'm like, honestly, as long as you're, doing it for me, I think it's kind of a win,
Yeah.
You love me so much. You're going to kill 12 people? Okay.
But I don't think he did it for her. He did it 100% for himself.
But he's giving her so much attention and like helping her and loving on her. And he's like, love, like giving her a bat. I'm like, you treat me like that. And, I'll love
I'll
you.
love you forever.
Okay. So you're saying he would not have won your heart for that. Maybe
I
I'm
don't
just
think
too
so.
easy.
Maybe. Yeah. People do say you are easy. I'm just kidding.
Who's saying?
Just kidding.
What do you think about the trigger warnings? Do you feel like they were valid or not valid?
I think they were valid warnings. Like, things were mentioned. The things that they mentioned were in fact in there. They were very mild though.
I agree. I feel like, and I guess it's better safe than sorry, but I was like, the only trigger warning that I felt like was appropriate was when she was going through that PTSD moment and the reaping.
Yeah.
I was like, this feels extremely fucked up to be reading right now. I do not like this one bit. Like, I felt so bad.
Yeah. So in the Crystal Hollows, they go through the reaping, I think once the students kind of get settled in, where the vessels or the vampires can choose a student that they want to feed from for a night. And the witches have to be tied up and blindfolded so that the vessels can come in and feed undisturbed. They won't look at them. Like, the witches will not look at the vessels. And
They can't because they're blindfolded.
yeah, but they don't want them to because they don't want any kind of weirdness the next day.
Yeah.
So the vessels can just come in, feed from them, do what they want, say what they want, and then leave. And during this, Willow's having like this PTSD moment of, I guess, something that happened with her dad in the past. And I do think it talks more about that in the second book, which we haven't read yet, but it talks more about like her trauma and stuff like that. But she was actually having like a full blown panic attack during this when he came in to feed from her. And he could tell she was having a panic attack. And he was like, interesting. But he just kept on doing his thing. So that was not ideal.
Yeah. Did you talk about like the handcuffs and everything?
No, I just said she was
Yeah.
tied up, but yeah, she was wearing
Yeah.
handcuffs and
That's what was getting me is like, she was like, all right, I'm really uncomfortable with this idea that I have to have somebody else feeding on me. And then it's like her friend or her roommate was like helping her get ready. She's like, you can either wear these thongs to show the vessels that you want to fuck them while you're being tied up, or you can wear this silky dress, which shows that you're trying to keep it to yourself, but you'll let them like suck your blood. And she's like, okay, well, that's weird. That's strike one. And then she's like, also, we need to put these leather cuffs on. And she's like, why are the cuffs necessary? She's like, so you don't run away. And then she's like, and now do you want to be chained up to the bed or do you want to be hung from this hook?
in the ceiling.
What kind of situation would you like this? Even if this was normal, this feels not good, you know, like the chains,
Yeah.
the being tied up like against your will. You're not allowed to see anything.
I think I
It's
would have
very-
liked this scene more and thought it was more, like fun, risque if she wasn't actively having trauma with
Yeah,
it in the book.
right.
Like, I think I would have been like, ooh, this is actually kind of a fun, spicy scene. Like, just something weird, something different. But she was very not into it, which was not cool.
Yeah, she wasn't. And like you said, Gray could tell that she was not into it. And he even said, he was like, a woman like Willow was not meant to be afraid of anyone but me. And I had like two opposing feelings when I read that. I was like, hot. That's so possessive and protective. I love that. And then the second one was like, you're sick. You could tell that she's so scared right now and having a full blown panic attack, and you're still going to suck all of her blood out. You're sick.
You're sick, but that's so hot.
Obviously, he loves her.
Obviously.
He doesn't want her to be scared of anyone but him. That's so protective and romantic.
That's so romantic. I love that for them.
Goals.
Life advice from Miranda.
Okay. Do you have any other trigger warning scenes that kind of stuck out to you?
There was one which I guess really this isn't that bad. It was a little weird. When she eventually gives her virginity to him, are you going to talk about that?
No, I didn't write that one down, but I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. So whenever she relents, this whole book, it's literally like third act, final like 40 pages when she finally gives up her V card to him. And this is weird as well. Her dad, in his planning for revenge, had told her to keep herself pure, untouched, so that when she got there, she could manipulate a vessel into helping her find the bones. And he was like, and they're going to go crazy if you're a virgin, which that is disgusting. Ew, 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 ick, ick, ick. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, the dad, he is a thumbs down for me. I don't like him at all. At first, I was like, maybe he does have some good motive for training her or something like that. But the whole time, like her PTSD related to the way that he was training her. And then like some behaviors on top of like him making her be a virgin for one vessel only. That was weird. And then there was one part where Greg caught her after she tried running away, and she was like, I put my hands on my lap and I had my head put down and I kept quiet like a subservient woman should be. That's what my dad told me that men like. Ew, ew,
Ick,
ew, ew.
Ick, ick.
The
Vomit.
dad is gross. Don't like him.
That's
Gross.
so disgusting. So she does end up giving her V card to Gray. Very hot moment. We love it. But she doesn't tell him that she's a virgin. So he goes in real fast, one thrust, and then he freezes because he can see that like she's in pain. And he was like, why didn't you tell me? But then he is like, oh my God, you're bleeding. And I was like, oh God. And he was like, you have no idea what this does to me. And he goes downtown, baby.
He gets his red wings.
He gets his red wings and he is like, you are mine forever. You have made a mistake. I will obsessively want you for the rest of my life. And I was like, that is disgusting. But
meanwhile, I was
kind
like,
of loved it.
I was like, you're going to be obsessed with me? Okay.
You're gonna be obsessed with me forever? Done. Accept.
Seriously, I was like, you honestly don't have to say anymore. You don't even have to say you like me. As long as you keep this obsessed thing and you keep looking for me and you keep protecting me, love that.
Yeah, she also the whole time was like, I can't give in to him. Like, I can't say that I love him because he can never love me back. He's a vessel. He doesn't have capability to love me back. And I was like, girl, he is obsessed with you. Just that is enough.
I
That's
literally
enough
had
for
that written
me.
down in my thing. I was like, obviously, he's your number one fan. He's so obsessed with you. Just fuck him already. Like, it's
Yeah,
fine.
Jesus, get over
Poor
it.
thing.
Ugh,
So, oh, holy me.
what a prude.
Am I right? Who doesn't give it up on the first date?
Oh,
Anyways, any other scenes to talk about? I have a few written down that I was interested in
go
talking.
to your next one and I'll continue thinking.
Okay, so starting in chronological order, I really liked the offering scene when she arrives to the hollow
Yeah.
halls and she's like, all these plants in the gardens are dead. Why? So she's like, it's because they're not giving the magic back that the earth has given. So she's like, I'm going to give my offering. She cuts herself and like gives blood offering, which is illegal in this school because of Grandma Susanna. And she shows like how powerful it is to just return what is given. And it was just such a pretty scene. She made the gardens flourish and everything bloomed. And it was so nice to watch how the plants interacted with her and everything. But it was also really sad because they're like, it's literally been years since we've had anything given back to us. And I like that.
Yeah, I thought that was so fun too. And I love that her magic is like earth magic. It feels like wholesome for some
It
reason.
does.
It's so
Very
sweet. Like
wholesome.
she loves making like the flowers bloom and the trees grow, like bringing greenery back, like giving to the earth and taking from it. Like it's really,
Yeah.
I loved it. It was so fun.
For how fiery she is very down to earth when it comes to her magic. But I really like that kind of balancing nature of it. But the thing that I thought was fun about the scene was after she gives offerings, and especially with how thirsty these plants were, they took a lot. And so she was drained. It was like as if you gave 10 bags of blood. You're tired, you're wobbly, you're shaky. And so she can't get back up to her room. She's like wobbling all over the place. And Gray is like, why can't your friend Eben over here carry you up? And Eben's like, no offense, but she's kind of thick, like slim thick. I don't know if I can carry her. And Gray is like, bitch, I can carry her. So he carries her all the way up to her room in the top of the tower, not shaking one bit, and puts her into the bed. And that was my first like, ooh, okay, I like that. If you could carry me without me feeling you shaking underneath, that's tea.
It
That's
also
tea.
describes her too, which I like. It describes the main character as a thick girly, very curvy, big girlies on the top, big booty on the bottom, like thick thighs. She's described as like a very like mid-size, average, very curvy, which I love.
Mhm.
And as soon as Gray saw her, even in the beginning, he was like, "Ooh," he said, "She is thick."
She's got some meat on her bones.
He said, "I love that."
Hmm. And then later on, I think that night or the next day before school starts, he's like thinking about her and he goes back up to her room to check on her, make sure she's okay. She's still in her clothes. And he's like, let me just make her a little more comfortable. And he like slips off her pants and then he gets like a raging boner and his fangs start pounding. I'm like, this is a violation. And she even confronts him the next day. She's like, the rose plants in my room, I asked them like how my pants got off. And they told me that you were in my room last night, you sick freak. And he's like, I was helping you get more comfortable, actually.
And he's also like, "The rose told you, you freak."
He's like,
What?
how'd you figure that out?
I love that.
And then there's another scene. Obviously, there's a lot of scenes in this book.
Yeah.
But another one that I thought was fun was when he started compulsing her, and because the tension is building.
Compelling. I was like,
Compulsing.
so aggressive. I was like, what is compulsing? I was like, did I miss that?
No, I just can't read. You know that.
Oh, I love this scene that you're about to talk about, though.
So she has like this vision of her great aunt dying, like this massacre day that everybody's talking about. And she gets this mark on her back. And apparently it's the mark of the devil. She doesn't know how she got it. And so he's asking her how she got this mark. And she's like, I don't know. I have no idea what he wants with me. They get into like this steamy argument, like, I hate you, fuck you, leave me alone kind of conversation. But then they start foreplaying. Let's just say that. And he gets her right up to that edge. And right before she is allowed to come, he's like, you have to tell me first, like what that dream was about and why the devil wants you. And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, then I'm not going to let you come. So she's trying to do it herself. And he's like, you will never come with anybody or anything besides me. And he compels her. She can have sex, She can feel pleasure, I guess, but she cannot get that big O without him, which I was like,
That
that's
is cruel.
menacing. That is evil, actually. That was evil of him. Out of all the
Yeah.
things that he's done, I think that's probably the worst. That's where I draw the line.
Yeah, to be honest, I think that's probably the most invasive, maybe cruel thing that he's done. I guess he really is a demon. Crazy.
He's the devil. He's the devil himself.
Yeah.
Turns out. He left her edging for like days before he let her.
So mean.
It was mean. And then once all these killings, like we said, there's those random killings that started up again. And once those killings were happening, the second one that came around, everybody in the Coven heard like some ghost calling out Willow's name. And so everybody's like, oh, Willow's associated to all these deaths somehow. And this is like probably the most out of pocket scene to me, was when she was walking around the school after that second murder by herself. And then like this group of kids come up, like group of witch kids come up, and they're like, I bet it's you who's killing all those people. We're going to fuck you up. And they just like literally start fighting her. And she doesn't even fight back. She doesn't do anything. Like, she is the most feisty person in this whole book who stands up for everything. And when she's getting dogged down by 4 other witches and like they're talking shit to her, she's like, well, you know, kids will be kids.
She's like, it's just not worth some fights, you know? And she lets herself get the actual shit beat out of her. It was so out of character.
It was very out of character. She's like, they're just scared. They're just scared. Like, as they're curb stomping her.
And I see the potential in this book. Like, this scene just felt so random. Like, it felt so out of pocket. Like, if it had been like leading up to this and like there had been whispers about, is she involved? You know, like people had been kind of looking at her sideways, being like, I wonder about this girl. It never said anything about her, like classmates hardly, like there was hardly any scenes with her other people involved. And then these kids are like, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. It was just so like out of left field. I was not expecting it. And then she just didn't do anything.
Yeah, she literally didn't do anything. And then she crawls up to Gray's room. And Gray's like, oh, what are you doing here?
She literally crawls up to his door.
I was like, this is ridiculous. This is so embarrassing.
It was so weird. She's like, I had nowhere else to go.
Oh, she's so funny.
Oh, it was funny. So Willow.
We're like, that was so funny. That part she got beat up and she had to crawl to safety.
Well, because every time he gives her his blood and he heals her. So it's like, is she really even hurt? She was probably like, I'm going to let these kids beat me to hell and then I'll just go get some vampire blood. It's cool. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And that vampire blood apparently gives them like a rush of euphoria when they drink it. So
she said, don't worry, beat me up. Go ahead.
I think I would like to be a vessel, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I would, unless I had fae magic, like, I don't know. I've always been drawn to vampires. I just think they're the coolest things. They're so strong and fast. They live forever. They're beautiful. They can compel people. Mm-hmm. They can heal themselves with blood and heal others with blood. And like this extra bonus of like the euphoria, I'm here for a good time.
Me too.
And a long time.
It's the vampire girlies in us, the Vampire Diaries girlies in us.
Vampire Diaries, I love you always. Who's your favorite character on Vampire Diaries? Or couple?
Couple
and character.
Character, I love Damon. I'll always love Damon. But I also love Caroline's character arc.
Yes, she had a great arc. Mm-hmm. I think my favorite couple is Klaus and Caroline.
The couple that could have been.
The couple that could have been. I wish. Oh, no. Enzo and Bonnie.
They're so sweet. You know, I just rewatched this and I really, really do love Damon and Elena too. Like, I loved the build up for them. Loved Caroline and Klaus. It's just, we just didn't get enough of them. I hated that they even put that storyline in there only for it to end the way that it did.
They're like, yeah, it was so sad. The reason why I like the bad guys over the heroes is because the heroes would sacrifice you to save the world, but the bad guys will sacrifice the world to save you. That's me. That's what I want. That's the kind of dedication I want.
Yes. No, seriously. I completely agree. The book that I read, which you should read at some point, it's like a Draco Hermione fanfic. And she's like, I love you, Harry. Or like she said, I would die for you, Harry, but I would kill for him.
Ooh.
Which I love that.
That is good.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about that finale again, about how Charlotte got brought back. I felt like that was another out-of-pocket scene, that there was so much build-up around Charlotte and Hecate's line and everything. She finally gets back to life, drops the tea that Willow's supposed to be married to Gray, and then she disperses and disappears. Like, there was so much happening. Like you said, like everything was cram-packed. There was so much action. And literally, by the way, while I was reading this scene, which was like 10 pages maybe, I had to stop intermittently because my husband was practicing the piano and he was playing "Oh When the Saints Go Marching In" during all of this chaos. And I'm like, could you please just for a second? I'm like literally 97% done. I just need you to give me a piece and quiet, please. And he's like, dun 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 dun.
Wait, I can actually picture him just being like, oh, when the saints
with the metronome on. So it was like,
not the metronome.
I was like, please, I am 97.
Oh.
I was like, I don't know how you do this every time, but it's like every time I'm at the end of a book and the climax is happening. I told him, I was like, you've ruined the climax for me. Like, and he was like, and I finished the book. He said, how was it? I was like, could have been better.
If When the Saints wasn't stuck in my head.
I was like, this is ruining everything.
I was going to say, I do feel like, though, like your surroundings and what's happening when you're reading a book makes such a big effect on how it goes for you, like how you feel about it, how you feel about like the ending, especially if it's at the ending. Like if you're getting distracted over and over and over again, it's not going to have that same hit that it would otherwise.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's why I feel like the way that you were describing it earlier about how it felt like everything was rushed, I don't even think I picked up on that because I was already getting pulled in and out of it so much. So I didn't even notice. I thought it was just the surroundings that I was putting myself in that caused me to feel a little disconnected.
I think that it was both for me anyway. But I didn't have any distractions going on. I was laying in bed quietly reading it, and there was no other distractions. And I still felt like I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It just felt like so many things happening, but it felt like they were just slamming into each other over and over again. It wasn't like a bridge of like leading from one big thing to a next. It was like this happened and then this happened. And you're like, you can't follow it for me anyway.
Yeah. No, that's why I was like, is it just me or did I not understand why Charlotte is here at all? Like she literally had no purpose, I felt like, of being brought back.
Yeah.
Well, like he could have told her all of this.
I don't know if you caught it at the end too. So there was a scene at the end where she was refusing basically to help bring back all these demons, break the seal, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And Gray was like, oh, well, I'm sorry to have to do this, but you're going to do it one way or another. And her dad brings in her little brother, Ash, like holding a knife to his throat. And turns out that he's like kind of in on this. And basically he made a comment after they raised Charlotte from the dead, or like raised her to like tell her all this stuff. He was like, you said you were going to bring back my sister. So it sounds like he's been manipulating Willow this entire time, saying, I want this vengeance. I want all this. But it sounds like he's been working in some kind of conjunction with Gray to an extent.
Another reason we don't like the dad.
Boo. Hate him.
Dad was literally grooming her for this.
Yeah, he's so gross. And I do think from the description that I read in the next book, it does go more into like what happened with her upbringing and like how all that happened. So I'm hoping there's more answers. I am going to read the book because like we said, it was entertaining. I enjoyed the storyline and the tension and the excitement and stuff.
There's just lots of unanswered questions.
Yeah. We will report back if questions get answered.
Mm-hmm. I think my predictions, and you can let me know if I'm right or wrong since I have to keep reading the other books. I think that they're going to convert Willow into some type of hybrid where she's going to be eternal forever and a witch forever. And he will never let her die because he's that guy. And then I think in the next book, they're actually going to become enemies to lovers instead of enemies to enemies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know she likes him, and she just got to get over that he kills people.
Yeah.
She's just got to get over it.
She does have to get over it. Also, he did say, he was like, please, like at the end, he was like, please, I can't love you in this body. Please put me in my regular body. So I do think he's trying.
I can't tell. Well, see, the thing with that, I'm like, if they can't love, is he just manipulating her and like saying all these things just because he knows that's what she wants? Like he can tell that she's into him and like she's trying to deny it. I can't tell if he is being sincere or not. Like I want to think that he is because it's a dark romance, but I feel like if he was really evil, he would just be playing her, and that would be so bad and sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Who's to
do
say?
not know. Who is to say? I can't wait to find out. My prediction is I think that he's going to make her into a monster. I think he's going to try to make her into a monster of some kind. Like, as far as like a witchy monster and also like an immortal one. Like, I think he's going to try to corrupt her. And I think she doesn't know where she wants or what direction she wants to go in life anyway. And so I think she's going to let him.
Yeah. I agree. I could see that being the big internal turmoil that she goes through in the next books.
What if she gets pregnant and they have a witchy Lucifer baby?
That would be interesting. I don't know how that would even work. How do you have a baby when you are not really alive? I don't know.
Well, I think they're alive now. He's alive now.
Oh, yeah. He's up now. He's up.
He's up. Yeah. We'll see.
All right. Any final thoughts or any other comments that you have?
None for me. I liked the book. I say a solid like with lots of questions.
Lots of questions. I agree. I think the 3.5 star is appropriate. How would you rate it on the spice level?
I would give it a 2.5.
I agree. I agree with that as well. Out of 5, I would give it like a 2.5. I feel like it wasn't all smut, which I love those kind of books, but the scenes that they were in, I was like, oh, this is tension. This is making you want it. This is making you want to read more. And it was written well, I would say.
Yes. Scenes. Lots of passion, lots of aggression, which I love. Anger.
Yeah. So give it a read. Tell us what you guys think, what you like about it, what you hate about it. Maybe we'll bond over that. Who's to say? Leave a comment under our post to let us know. And stay tuned for our next episode where we're going over Throne of Glass. I don't know which chapters quite yet, but you guys should have known from the last episode.
It's something.
It's something in there.
Something. Just assume, just keep on reading.
Or listening.
Yeah. That's it.
Have to read.
That's all we got. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Plot Peak Podcast and TikTok at plot.peak for all things podcast related. And soon, once we get more organized with our life, we're going to try to give you some more heads up, like maybe a monthly schedule or like, a little bit in advance what you can be expecting to give us some accountability and to give you a little heads up,
Yeah, we can all have a little Plot Peak book club.
But if it changes, don't add us because we're going to try our best. So,
and if you do add us, if we fuck up, then we will block you immediately.
So quickly. We're not kidding.
We don't do hate.
This is a hate-free zone, and we do not tolerate it unless it's hate fucking in books. So that's it. That's all we can do.
That's all we can do. And on that note, goodbye.